All right, so this is your inheritance genetics lesson 7, where we will look beyond just predicting inheritance for two unlinked genes, and we're now going to look at linked genes. So last lesson, we looked at unlinked genes, which means the genes of two different genes basically are lying on two different pairs of chromosomes. Whereas linked genes, they're actually located on the same homologous pair of chromosomes. Now, let me remind you what that really means. What do homologous pairs means? So this is your human cell on the left-hand side. It's a normal human body cell. So every single human, unless you have a genetic disorder, otherwise you should have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Chromosome 1 is the largest, and both of these pairs, they will have the same gene located on the same position on the chromosome. So for example, if eye color is located right here in the tip of chromosome 1, then it will also be located on this side, the one that is inherited from your dad. So remember, your homologous pair of chromosome actually comes from your parents, one each. So one of these would come from your mother, and one of these will be coming from your dad. And how does that work? Because in your human gametes, in the eggs and the sperms, the eggs will only contain half of the chromosome that a normal human cell has. So for example, if a lady that has this chromosome picture on the left-hand side, we call it a karyotype on the left-hand side, then she will actually split her cell in half and produce eggs with them. So when she split her cells in half, she would put one chromosome 1 into the egg and one chromosome 2, one chromosome 3, one chromosome 4 into her eggs. Same thing happens with males. So when the males produce sperms, the chromosomes are going to be halved. So it would put one chromosome 1, one chromosome 2, one chromosome 3, etc. into his sperms. So that when the eggs and the sperms come together and fertilize each other, what happened is that the egg's going to have one chromosome 1, the sperm's going to have one chromosome 1, and together you can make a new baby that has a complete set of chromosomes. All right, so your gametes will contain one chromosome from each pair, and together they make a new human being with complete sets of chromosomes. And that is going to bring us to why linked and unlinked genes seems to be inherited slightly different. So with unlinked genes, because the genes lies on two different pairs of chromosome, when they are being inherited, you can get more different combinations from them. So the gene B, you can get the one on the left-hand side and have the one on the left-hand side for the chromosome that has an A gene on it. All right, so the A and the B represents the genes. And you can see that on this side, these are all the different combinations of chromosomes, all the different combinations of alleles that you can get. And when you fertilize them, you get a lot of different genotypes and phenotypes. However, when you get the linked genes, the gene A and the gene B sits on the same chromosome. So when you split the cell in half and produce eggs and sperm, the one on the left-hand side would go into one egg, and the one on the right-hand side will go into another egg. However, because A and B both sit on the same chromosome, this big B allele will always be inherited with the big A alleles. So you ended up only having two alleles, two combinations of alleles in your gametes. So the eggs and the sperms that are being produced from the cell, there's only two variations. And therefore, your Punnett square or your dihybrid cross is going to be the simple version. So the Punnett square instead of a dihybrid cross, because in total, there will only be two gametes, or two types or two variations of gametes available from each parent. So your Punnett square would look like this. Okay, so based on the information and the understanding that I've just said, can you please answer these questions in your notes? Compare and contrast inheritance of two genes from linked and unlinked, and then tell me the major difference you see in the position of the two genes. How does this affect the number of allele combinations when gametes are made? And how does this affect the phenotype and the genotype being generated from the gametes? So look at the diagram carefully. You have this in your notes as well, so you can kind of zoom in to have a look at it. And then, so pause the video and do that. So assuming that you have already completed or attempted to answer that. So there we go, extra resources. I've provided two links for you. One of them is like a reading, it's a website on linked genes and how it produces less combinations in gametes. And then if you still don't get the idea of how gametes are made and why linked and unlinked genes produce different combination, there's a video on osmosis. Osmosis is basically a process how gametes are being produced and how do the chromosomes split in half or half a number when they are going through meiosis. And here are your questions. All right, you have 3 questions in total. This time, instead of just doing Punnett squares or dihybrid crosses, I'm getting you to think about the possible choices of things and what are the methods that you can use to test what the parent's genotype or phenotype is like when you cannot be certain just by looking at the question. All right, so again, ELF questions, I'm sorry. They're the easiest to work with, basically. All right, I will let you attempt that. Answers will be uploaded later.